All right, so on today's episode of the Cameron Brown Show, we have another Cameron with
How you
us.
doing?
Cameron from Greenville, and I appreciate you coming down. And
sure.
Welcome to Charleston.
Thanks for having
Glad
me.
to have you in the hood.
Yeah.
So Cameron Ledford, driven entrepreneur, real estate investor, leading Ledford Billiard Supply. He's known for delivering high-quality home entertainment furniture across the country through Ledford Billiard Supply. Cameron's built a strong reputation for premium service and strategic growth. Alongside his business ventures, he owns a portfolio of residential properties in South Carolina. Is that across the state, or is that just certain parts?
All upstate.
Love it, love it. And he's passionate about fitness and continuous self-improvement. Cameron combines his competitive spirit with a hands-on approach to business, and we are glad to have him on the podcast today. Thanks for letting me use your phone there.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you having me, dude.
Yeah, well, once again, welcome to the Low Country. It's a little bit different down here, probably weather-wise, or is it about the same as it was in the upstate?
Feels about the same.
Okay.
Yeah. To be honest, it's kind of like my first time in Charleston that's not really like in and out for business.
Yeah, yeah.
Never stayed here. I went to Coastal Carolina, so I was like a Myrtle Beach kind of guy.
Cool.
And then now we're here, so.
Sweet. Well, welcome down.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you want to talk about it yet. This will maybe be a week or two out. We can launch this a little bit later if we need to. But
we could.
What's your reason for being in Charleston?
Yeah, for sure. So we're working on an acquisition. Obviously, I own Ledford Billiard Supply. He said we do home entertainment furniture across the country, so we're acquiring another company here in Charleston that is actually kind of like a corner piece that will be a huge opportunity for us as a company, but it has the two brands that we don't currently offer in the industry, so that'll complete the puzzle.
Yeah.
And then I think that's going to give us access, one, across the state, because we're growing so fast. I want to get down to the Low Country. I want to get to the coast as fast as I can. And the opportunity presented itself, and I think it's going to be a great deal. So
cool. That's super
excited.
exciting, man. We were having a conversation earlier. We were kind of diving into the acquisition, diving into your business, diving into your growth in general, which is all super exciting. The growth of the billiards company would not have happened had you not kind of taken a leadership role, however many years ago that was. Can you give me just a little bit of a breakdown on how the business got started and how you got to where you are today?
For sure, yeah. So I grew up in the company. My father started the company in 1964. And as a kid, in the 90s, I'm like helping him carry tools. I'm a very, very like, wherever my dad's at, I'm in his shadow. I'm right there behind him. If he's riding a tractor, like, he better make room because I'm pulling one handle and he's pulling the other. Like, that's kind of our relationship. And in my teenage years, I was installing the tables and I hated it. I just didn't want to be a part of it. Like, I'm going to go out and do my own thing. Then in 2017, I have a marketing company and I'm trying to get clients. And my mentor is like, your father has a company, go talk to him. And so I like to tell the story is that, like, I went in there to close him and he closed me.
Yeah.
But really, I saw an opportunity for a company in an industry that was kind of getting outdated and was something that I felt like I could grow. I could make a massive impact across the country. And I felt like at the time, a lot of other industries didn't have that same opportunity. We don't do crazy numbers. We're not doing $10, $20 million. But I think, not yet. But I think over the course of, 10, 15 years, we're about halfway through that. And I'm at, I guess 8 years now. And that opportunity I see even more and more now. The closer we get to the other founders of these other companies are retiring. They don't have kids who want to be a part of their business. And just like this acquisition we just talked about, it's kind of fallen into play. It just, throughout the 7 years, it got a little murky sometimes. Going through COVID, seeing all that, and in a family business, it's often like you're butting heads a lot because your father wants to go one way, you want to go another way. He's made his money, he's calm, he's cool, he doesn't want to take any risks. Right. And I'm over here like, dude, we're all in every day. Right. Like, double it. All in. Go all in. All right, that worked out? Go all in. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, no, we're screwed. Yeah. Not do it again. And so, kind of growing that, it was a lot of fun for me because I got to spend a lot of time with my dad, but I got to see a different side of him too. Yeah. So, we'll see where it goes.
So would you suggest, though, so growing a business with your family too, right? Plenty of people do it. But your experience sounds like it's been pretty good. It's had some rocky times, but
for sure.
At the end of the day, doing any kind of business with family can get interesting.
For sure.
So would you suggest other people getting into business with their family, if they're going to do it? If they're going to do it though,
yeah.
Is there like a more tactful, is there a better approach to getting into business with family?
I think my situation was very unique with my father, because he was my ball coach. Everything we did together. We just had that relationship. Would I recommend other people to do it? I mean, you got to understand the relationship's going to change when you do it, because you go into it as a father-son, right? And it's okay. Well, your father still sees you as your son, and you still see him as your father. So sometimes lines get crossed that maybe you don't think are right, and then that creates a conflict, and then it's still your father.
Yeah.
And, you're still his son. But with saying all of that, I think I heard a video Patrick McDavid did years ago, because there was some times where I'm like, man, I don't even like being around my dad anymore. We're just fighting every single day at the office, because I'm trying to grow, but growing is risk, and he's trying to avoid risk at all possibility, because he had me at 51, so he'll be 82 this year. I'm 30, and for him, taking all that risk later in life was basically betting on me. And then now it's like, well, maybe he didn't want me to fail, so maybe he was trying to protect me because he is my father. Or he didn't want me to struggle. Maybe he saw me doing things that he had already been through and that he was trying to protect me from. And for me, I'm like, I've got to go out, and we don't have enough money, in my opinion. I'm like, we're not making enough to sustain you past 85. If I'm going to grow the family and I'm going to have kids of my own and I want to protect your assets, I've got to make a ton of more money. Not to mention mom, and we got everybody else. So now as I get older, I kind of become in that leadership role. So seeing that the relationship's going to change if you're going to go into business with your father. It's a great thing. I would do it all over again, even though it was so hard and so rocky. I think we were able to, now we're at a position where I see him differently. Yeah. He sees me differently. We respect each other. I think we've always respected each other, but I would say this, he knew how to get the best out of me. It's kind of like if you played sports, you probably know that one coach that you absolutely hated in the moment, and now you look back, whether it was termites football for me, there was a coach that just, we hated, but we never lost a game. Ever. For 2 years straight, undefeated. We're dropping 54 points on kids. This is, rec league football, but you look back now and I'm like, that dude got the best out of us. Yeah. And so I say that, my father, he really pushed me. He didn't make it easy at all, and he could have very easily, and it would have negatively impacted me.
Well, it sounds like things are working pretty well considering you're acquiring companies at this point, which is pretty cool.
Which is fun for me.
Yeah, which is awesome, and I think a lot of people, the vast majority of the population probably stops before they get to this point, right? Number of years into this business, you're growing it with your dad, you're butting heads, but at the end of the day, you're now at a point where you're acquiring companies, and you're able to start acquiring companies, which is true testament to your grit and your determination. We could go down that road, right? But I think there's also there's the real aspect of what it means to build a company and build a business. Yeah. And I talk about this all the time. People see what you post online. People see your stuff on the Billiard Supply company. They see your actual Instagram or your actual online presence, and they're like, "Oh, his life must be great. He must be crushing it. There's no way he's had any kind of pitfalls or downturn." Yeah. And you're just like, "No, you haven't seen anything." Yeah. And so I kind of like to dive into that aspect of it a little bit too, because I don't think many people understand what it takes to get there. Yeah. So for you, and kind of in talking to that a little bit more, can you talk about the reality of the business a bit and what it's been like through that roller coaster? Yeah,
I mean, it has been a roller coaster, I would say, for sure. And I think that is business. I think if you don't have a roller coaster type vibe in business, maybe you're not working hard enough. Yeah. I talk about the highs and lows, and it's so important that you stay to your true north, right? Yeah. In the lows, like this too shall pass. In the highs, this too shall pass. Reminding myself of that throughout the moments that, I may get into a little bit deeper here in a minute, but those kept me steady, but it was never easy. I went from making $60K a year as a sales manager at Pivotal Fitness, had a secure job, had an elevator, had growth, had an owner who was hard on me for 2 weeks because I quit. To chase a dream, to chase a passion. Yeah. But what it was is I felt like in that moment, going from 60K, the pitch, to tell you the true number, is I went to my father and I said, what can you afford? And he said, 18 grand. I said, my bills are 22. I was like, I'll take the 18 and give me 10% everything I sell. And he still objected. He said, well, even if I did that and I believe you could sell, I can't put them in. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Now, 15-year-old me's thinking about putting in these tables. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
All right, fine. I'll do it. I see the opportunity. I can do this. I believe in it. It's a legacy company. It gives me the opportunity to be 100 years. Like, most of the time, you're not going to get that in one lifetime. That was a huge selling factor for me, was legacy, to have a 100-year-old company. But going into the struggles during this whole time, so I went through COVID. Right after COVID, I got this disease called ulcerative colitis. So it shut me down for January of 2021. I didn't leave my apartment. I didn't leave my room. And so that was very, very difficult. So managing that through COVID, and then you've got, at the same time, you're holding a family's company. You are the lifeblood. Like, when I came in, he was going to retire at the end of that year.
Right.
Like, he was done. He's like, son, after Christmas, I'm hanging up the doors. He was basically paying his one employee off of service work that they were doing throughout the whole year. And that was just all going to him because he had been with him for 20 years. So it was kind of like he was living off his real estate. Like, he's ready to hang it up. And so now here I come in, and the next year we double, and the next year we double again, and the next year we double again. And so now we're doubling. And now there's so much more added pressure. Now we got 2 locations. Now I'm competing head to head because so I go downtown and my father's like, it'll never work downtown. I take the keys March 1st, 2020. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting there thinking my dad is right. I have fumbled the bag. This will be bad. I can't call him and tell him.
Yeah.
And so I find my way and navigate my way through that. I actually gambled at the casino and got me rent money for a couple months. And then we get to the summer, and then COVID, all the home entertainment stuff blew off the shelves. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I was selling one thing on Amazon, somebody was buying on the website, and somebody's calling in. And I'm like, I can't fulfill all of this, but we're taking the deals, we're getting it done. I don't know how I'm going to get this to Las Vegas. One of the first deals we closed was in Las Vegas. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. I'll take it there. I'll figure that out. So I closed the deal. And then it was just another one and another one and another one. Now it's all over the country. Now I'm having to figure out, do I pay sales tax for these out-of-state sales? Now I got all this other mumbo jumbo going on that I
But you didn't have ChatGPT at the time.
didn't have. I wish I did. Oh my gosh.
Years ago. Wow, that would have been amazing.
It would have been great.
It is the answer to all our problems now.
Yeah, literally. So I think about ChatGPT as a way not to think. You don't have to think anymore.
Is it a bad thing?
It could potentially be.
I mean, for the progression of humanity, is that a good thing that we're not thinking?
Yeah. It could go one or two ways. It might be good because some people think crazy.
Well, how can we figure out how to adjust ChatGPT so it only thinks for those of us that are not crazy?
Yeah.
But then, what is crazy? And subjectively,
Maybe
we might be crazy.
We might be crazy.
Considering we're sitting here on a afternoon talking about random things and
Yeah.
business and all the above, we might be the crazy ones. So, what is the criteria for what is crazy?
Well, I think I am crazy. I think
ChatGPT should think for me.
Yeah, literally.
I love it.
I use ChatGPT as a main tool, because one, it's the access to information so instantly. Speed is everything, and that's one of the hard things, is finding the information that you need. If you knew every answer, you could get a lot of things done.
Right.
Well, like we were talking earlier, well, we don't know if this is going to time out. Is this going to last the full time? We probably should have asked ChatGPT. It probably would have told us.
Whether or not this camera is actually going to work the entire time, we're about to find out. So I don't know. I can't even see it. It looks like it's still charged.
I see a red light on.
I see a red light, which I think means recording. It's amazing. Once again, what's amazing about all this too is you go through all this research, all this time to try to figure out what the best equipment is for your podcast, and then you look over and you're like, my cell phone has a better video than 90% of the cameras. Once again, that is subjective. I have no idea, but at least it seems like the camera video is pretty good.
You're an Apple guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, for now.
For now.
Yeah.
All right. I'm an Apple guy too.
Did you get the 16?
No, but I just watched the video about it last night. So, or yesterday, whatever they had this.
And what is your opinion on that on my iPhone 16? Because frankly, the integration of AI was wonderful. Thanks for integrating AI, but I can access AI from any device.
Yeah.
So is there really a benefit of the 16 in your opinion?
I'm buying an Apple because it's an Apple, I have to say.
Okay.
It's about time for an upgrade.
Yep.
You know, every 2 years I feel like I'm buying a new phone. I'm not in the odd numbers, I'm in the evens.
Yep.
So I find myself going through that. I really don't know what the new technology is on the new iPhone. I do know my screen is broken.
So it's time for something.
I do know that. I do know my storage is getting full.
Yep.
And so I think that's kind of more of the premise. But I did see something really cool on their premiere yesterday, whatever the show was.
Yep.
They actually have like effects that are in the video creation. So like, you know, you watch Hollywood, you see like TVs blow up.
Yep.
You know, with explosions and everything else. And it's like they were doing that on an iPhone.
Yeah. Wild.
I'm like, now the content that we have to create is getting so much harder, I guess. Maybe easier, but like from a small business perspective, I've got to create cinematic videos.
See, so you don't. So I'm going to disagree real quick because I don't think you have to.
Okay.
And I'm going to say this because not this. I'm going to sum up my words a little bit. The more genuine you are in your marketing, it seems like the better off you do.
Okay.
Long term, right? There's the short term, fancy cinematic, punchy content that gets you incredible views, hundreds of however many views, thousands, tens of thousands, of billions of views. But does it actually lead to people buying from it, right? And you got to think about like for you,
that's a good thought.
Right? And like I know I'm talking to you as a marketer, but as a marketer, if you're selling like high-end products, like a pool table, right? You probably want to market to like the higher-end folks,
right?
So like, do they really care at the end of the day about the super punchy like BS content?
Right.
And it's kind of like the nice cars. Do they really have does Ferrari typically have like nice commercials, like, or like do these guys have like really like not really? They do market, but who are you marketing to?
That's a good point.
So the way I've thought about it for like myself is if I'm going to build out like a personal brand of sorts, I might as well like be genuine from the very beginning and be like, this is who I am. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, I don't care. I really don't. Because you're not meant to be like a client, a partner or a client of mine or a friend of mine. Like this is my, I'm attracted to people I want to be around. Right. So I think of it like that too, where there are plenty of smaller products, which I guess you sell probably plenty of other products as well.
For sure.
That could benefit from millions of views. But when you're building that brand long term, like, don't you want to be more real and genuine for like the long lasting?
Would you consider yourself a logical person or like a creative? Because you're in marketing, so I kind of feel like you're creative.
Yeah. So I'm slightly creative, like in the sense of like my ideas and thinking. But I think when it comes to like art, like I'm not an artist. I'm not a graphic designer at all.
My brain is like so creative. I think about trying to do some like stuff that's never been done before.
Gotcha.
Right. So like in just my brain, when I saw that video, immediately where it went was, could I shatter like a set of balls on the table when like the break happens? And then it's like you're falling through to our website or to our showroom. That's kind of where my brain went. Like you could create some crazy creative content with that. That now that I think that, I'm like, and I've seen that vision and I had that thought, now it comes up to the point of like, for me, it's just like, I just want to create it just because like I can. It's a possibility, right? Whereas before, I'm shooting videos of me in the showroom and I'm like, hey, like we just sold something in Colorado. If you're looking to fill up, your game room, enjoy 10% off, we got this, we got that, and it's just very basic. So I could get very cinematic with it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right though. Like there's that approach to it, which is also it is a talent, and I feel like younger people, I say that younger people, like people younger than us, tend to be so much better at the TikToks and Instagrams and the Reels, and I'm over here like, hey, my name's Cameron. This is the Cameron Brown Show. Like, welcome to the Cameron Brown Show. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
But then you pass off somebody who's like actually super creative in that regard.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see what they can create, which
For sure.
once again is amazing. It's not like that's not genuine content. I'm more so thinking about some of the other content you see online. That's not like it's really not relative to like the brand. Like, I'm not gonna go show women in bikinis shaking their ass on my pool table just to get views.
Yeah.
Like I think that's good if that's your brand.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's your brand.
For sure.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I
think you're willing to sell
that video would probably perform well if I was like Dan Bilzerian or something.
Exactly. I mean, every single one of his videos is like 10 to 15 women in a private jet or on a golf cart.
Literally,
like,
that's the brand he created.
I'm like, that's a big golf cart for 10 to 15 women. That's amazing. But yeah, that's a brand that they've created. So it's I guess it all aligns with the kind of brand that you're trying to create too.
For sure.
I guess creating that and figuring that out early on and then setting the vision for yourself, which probably has not been something that I've been good at, is like trying to figure out like what is that brand I'm trying to create, right?
For sure.
Where it's just like I'm just creating because I like creating,
Yep.
but I'm not necessarily creating for a particular reason or a particular long-term vision. It's just more so like, hey, I like creating and I like connecting with people. So I think figuring that out early on is probably a lot more strategic, a lot more tactful to be like.
I think that's more in like company building. So I think what a lot of people think is like when you start out as an entrepreneur, you start a business, you're like growing this brand, you're growing a name, whatever, you're selling product. That's the main thing. Like, you got to, in order for this heart to beat, I need sales.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting to the point where like, I want to build a company. I want to build something that people can come here and work for 20 years, live an amazing life, have great benefits, a career.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to do in my industry because most of it is self-employed. It's a guy who knows how to put together a pool table and who has a brand and who can sell it.
Right.
So as we were talking about earlier, like transitioning that to, rebranding, having that idea of the table, the piece is the product that you're buying. It's a piece of furniture, but it's not a couch. It's it's entertainment. Yeah. It's memories. It's an experience we're sharing. It's something that whenever you use it, no matter what home it's in, it's going to create a memory, a lasting memory. I try to paint the picture in my clients' minds of it's Christmas, you've just finished dinner, everything's put away, the wife comes into the game room, and she sees her father playing with her son on the pool table, and that memory is going to stay with her son forever. It's probably going to be one of the happiest moments in her father's life, and she got to sit back and watch it because she had a table. And so that's the aesthetic that I want to pitch and present to people versus a table in a bar.
Love it. Love it. Outside of the business, you mentioned earlier that you played football, you boxed, did all the sports, did all those things. You also mentioned that you pulled your hamstring at one point. We were 2 weeks ago. I pulled my, just for sort of some background, but 2 weeks ago I pulled my hamstring playing softball. And Cameron and I were discussing the best recovery for your hamstring. Yeah. And I don't know that either one of us really knows necessarily because both of us decided to jump right back into the sport 2 weeks after it. Yeah. And so literally last night I had a softball game and I almost felt like I kind of tweaked it again. Yeah. So I told him today that we were not going to be working out. We're not going to the gym because I had to fully recover for the next couple of days. So let's just talk about the sports background a little bit. Yeah. What are you still doing now to stay in shape, and what has kind of been your athletic history as well?
Well, I played baseball the majority of my life, like from 4 to my junior year. I had an injury my junior year. It's kind of cool for me because it's like if you're going to go out in a sport, you're either going to quit or you're going to get hurt. And if you're going to get hurt, it better be something cool. Yeah. So I got to see like certain bones in my body that, not everybody gets to see. So that's a very cool story for me. I got a cool scar on my ankle. Love the game.
Like dating story too? Like is it like a good icebreaker?
Yeah, it might be. Well, they're usually like, "What's wrong? What happened?" And I'm like, "Oh, you asked."
It's a great icebreaker.
Yeah. Awesome. But no. So sports has always been a part of my life because I've had naturally good hands. So like sticks and balls, like my dad and I, we grew up just throwing the football, throwing the baseball, whatever year it was, right? Yeah. Like whatever season. If it's football's on the TV, we're throwing footballs in the houses and. Driving mom crazy because we're breaking shit or, whatever. Yeah. But I loved racing the most growing up. like as a kid, because like my dad was kind of affiliated with racing, but we had a dirt bike and I totally tore down a telephone pole, like knocked myself out, dislocated my shoulder. I'm like 6 years old. My dad sold the dirt bike the next day. He probably took it to the like junker or whatever.
Yep.
But never raced again, and that's what I really love to do. So we had to find a way to compete, and we really dove into baseball. Played football when I was young. We had 2 undefeated seasons with like a rec league, and I've never been like the biggest guy. You know, growing up, I was always small, so I never really played like football after that.
Right.
And then got into boxing a little bit after college, like in my younger 20s. I was heartbroken is what it was. And what better place to go than to the gym?
Start hitting people.
Or you just, literally.
Yeah.
So I'm in there. I hit up one of the guys and I was like, look, I want to learn the technique from the ground up. I'm a very technical person. I want to know, I don't want to be in there just hitting the bag just to hit the bag. Like I want to know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And fell in love with the sport of boxing. So I trained that off, on and off, like never really competed in that crazy. But I love the sport. I love the technical side of it. And it is the only sport that I've ever been into where it is all on you. When you get in that ring, it is you versus that other guy. And if you did your work outside the ring, you'll be fine.
Right.
If you didn't, if you cheated, if you took shortcuts, you'll find out in about 45 seconds. And you
if
will
not sooner.
Yeah. And for the next, 2 minutes, you are going to hate it. And like it gave me a level of endurance that I never had before. Boxing is like, if you've ever worked out and went to boxing and did it for 3 months, you'll never be the same.
Right.
Because you'll just be able to do things that you've never done before and you'll always be able to do after.
I've got one of my good friends who's actually on early on in the podcast, James Bezin. He did a local boxing event. He said the same thing. Said the exact same thing. He was like, it was the best endurance training I've ever had in my entire life. And I watching guys train for boxing though, you can see it. It's very evident. But to have to stand there and to punch air for, literally hours on end, jump rope, etc. I can see it. It makes a lot of sense. But then from that angle too, like you're doing that for yourself, but then you're also getting hit simultaneously. So like you're punching, but you're also simultaneously getting hit.
Yeah.
It's dynamic. It's complex.
Yeah.
A lot to it.
Well, it's fun because like once you learn the sport of boxing, then when you watch boxing like on pay-per-view and stuff like that, you get to see what they're doing and you realize how advanced they are. But it's really a dance. It's like, it's the third or fourth punch that you're really trying to land. Right. You're trying to position people. You're trying to put them in a place. They call it the sweet science, right? Like everybody's heard of the sweet science. But it's a beautiful sport is really what it is. Right. And I just enjoy that. And then it's the competitiveness where it's, I don't compete anymore, but trying to do that, in your early 20s.
Yep.
Like you're going to meet some dogs. Like I've got relationships with some guys that I met in the gym that you're just bonded forever because like you went to that level. Like you were, when you spar, like there's a chance you could die. Now granted, you got headgear on, you're probably swinging 16, 18 ounce gloves. Right. Like it's a very low chance, but it's still a possibility if you get hit in the right way and it's like all the wrong timing, it could happen. But when you get there and you experience that with another person, you kind of get this respect for that guy. And it's very interesting because you come from all different backgrounds. Some guys have money and they're pulling up in great cars, and some guys they're fighting to survive.
Yeah. On the money comment, this is one of those things that I've delved into pretty deep over the past few years.
Okay.
Of the grit, the determination, the desire to make and to build for yourself. Right. Is for us is something we've talked about before. Is something it's a huge driving component of ours to not just make more money, but to build. We're both builders in that regard. And I think that's huge. But the importance and the significance of money in our lives, right, and how deep of a topic that is. And I feel like people, talk about it all the time, but it's like, truly, what is money to you? So, kind of maybe a tough question,
right?
But what is money to you?
Yeah.
And maybe a better question is what drives you,
yeah.
right? Not so much the money, but what is money to you and what drives you at the end of the day?
So I think,
because, sorry, real quick.
It's a great question.
Because money, right, created out of thin air. Right?
Yep.
We keep printing it.
It's a barter item.
Right? And so sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah.
it seems as though it's one of those things that we become so attached to.
Mm-hmm.
And we have people for a long time been attached to money. But
Yeah.
once again, what is money and what drives you?
So I think money in the logical sense is it's a tool, right? I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna trade my time for this dollar, and I'm gonna use this dollar to buy food with.
Right.
Where in the past, you're probably killing somebody for some food, right? Like we're talking 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, right? If I make shoes, I'm trading that for wood wheels.
I don't know. I mean, I was watching Peaky Blinders the other night, and they were killing each other in the early 1900s.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. Now, that is a great show, though.
This is my second time watching it through it,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what? Like, I think I need to go back and watch Peaky Blinders again. And every single time I watch Peaky Blinders, I'm like, it's time for a bourbon drink and a cigar.
Right.
Like, every single time.
It does have that classy vibe.
Yeah.
It has, but also too, like growing up as like a gangster.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
I've got razor blades in my hands.
I can't. I feel like I would die really quick. I feel like that's the thing, right? Like, I feel like your life expectancy is super short.
For sure. Oh, yeah.
Like, 20s.
Living till 35, it's probably like very, very low.
As cool as it is, you're not going to be able to be around to tell the story.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And then I think, but that was a great show. But yeah, so money, one, it's a tool. And if used correctly, and I think if you can gamify money, I'm trying to gamify my whole money aspect right now. It's very interesting that you asked me that question because that's a prime topic that I'm like from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's where my brain's at is how do I gamify this? How do I automate this? How do I make sure that everything's coming in, it's divvied up, it's automated, it's out of sight, out of mind. Yep. And I know that in 3 years, this is going to be done, this is going to be done, this is going to be done. I'm going to have the FU money, right? The FU money is the freedom. That's what drives me. I'm chasing that ability to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. And for me, what I want to do is actually make a difference. I want to do some things that are kind of cool.
Okay.
But those things for me are take somebody who doesn't have an opportunity, but somebody who has full potential. Somebody who wants something more than what they currently have, but they don't know how to get it. Sounds like the story of my life. I want something, I'm working my ass off to get it, the grit, the grind, the struggle, and then all I needed was somebody to believe in me, right? I want to be that person for that person, but I kind of all right, here you go. It's put up or shut up.
Yeah.
Money can no longer be your problem.
Yeah.
That's not your excuse. And I think a lot of people use money as an excuse for not having the money, when money, I think, is just a byproduct of certain traits and certain things that you do consistently. They say, Grant Cardone says, money follows attention, right? A lot of people will say money's a tool. A lot of people will say, that you can make a lot of money in sales. There's a lot of ways to make money, but it's the hardest thing, I think, is making it and keeping it and using it the right way. Because we can all go buy a Ferrari, right? You've seen it on my phone one day, right? Is that the best use of money? That's debatable.
Right. So as a follow-up to that, what drives you?
So I'm driven to be significant. I'm not chasing happiness. I don't think happiness is I don't think you can be significant, have an influence, and be happy. You're kind of asking for all three, and the beggar can't be the chooser, right? But also I think happiness comes from fulfillment, and if you can fulfill something in your life that you're chasing, and for me, I'm a worker, I'm a doer, I'm a provider. If I'm not working, I really don't know what to do.
Yeah.
If I don't have an objective or a mission, it's got to be complete. So that's what drives me. It's just making sure that what I'm doing is something that is significant, that's going to help something. The world's going to be better because I did X, Y, or Z, whatever it is.
Right.
I'm not driven by any specific motive to go make $1 billion. I expect that.
It'd be nice. Looking forward to it.
I expect it.
Yeah.
I want it.
Yeah.
I want to become the person that attains that. It's not the monetary number doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
It's the person that you are and you have to be to acquire that.
That's something I've seen a lot on, just in general, and having conversations about this particular topic. is the kind of person you have to become. It's not so much the money, right? It's not so much the assets. It's more so who are you becoming in order to obtain those particular things. And I think that's, constantly like overlooked by so many that do not invest back into themselves. They don't
Self-development.
Correct. 100%. And I, frankly, the whole self-development thing to a certain degree, there's so many cliches in that space. And it's kind of frustrating from time to time because you're just like so forced down you're like, I don't really care to hear about your self-development anymore. And that's ultimately what kind of frustrates me too, because I'm like, I don't need to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to become the best version of myself. I really don't. I don't need to take 2 ice baths a day and sit in the sauna. I was like, do I like the sauna in the steam room? Yeah. Do I like working out? Yes. But is that what I need to become the best version of myself in order to become like the $1 billion man? Right. I don't think so. So when I think about becoming the best version of myself, that is so unique to every single person.
Right.
And we all put all this pressure, unnecessary pressure and like stress on ourselves
for sure
to become what somebody else told me I should become. Like what do you really want to become? And so in like getting kind of deeper into that, every single person is uniquely their own, but you got to identify what that is to you, what like that success looks like to you. So I've asked this question now a few times, and I love asking this one, but it's like really like, what does success? You mentioned happiness earlier too, and it's are we really meant to like what is happiness? But like what is success to you at the end of the day?
That's another great question. It's you can get a lot of answers from that.
You can get a lot of, and once again, I'm not trying to get like super philosophical.
No,
at this
for
point,
sure.
But,
I love philosophical.
But the point of this conversation, the point of this podcast, is to hopefully get as deep as possible. To get people to realize that they're not behind. They're not missing something. They're not slow. It's not a problem with them. Well, it might be a problem, but they need to identify the problem with them and address it. But ultimately, like, we're all in different parts of our life.
So you said a few things I want to talk to, and then I'll hit that main question, right? Because you mentioned self-development, 4 a.m.s, like ice baths, all these crazy routines. Like that works out for some people, and that's exactly what some people need. I think some people need to realize that they need to find something that they can do every day. Like for me, when I started my whole journey, I was 20 years old, I weighed 220 pounds, and for me, self-development was getting my ass to the gym every day. For me, self-development was not eating a number 6 Hardee's, a number 6 large with a Coke every Sunday. That was it.
Is it like your once a year now? Do you do it like once a year?
I've had that probably once in the past 10 years.
Heck yeah.
Like just to try it, and I'm telling you, it makes you feel like crap.
Yeah.
Like I ate pizza the other day. I made a post about it on Facebook. I'm like, this is my reminder not to eat pizza because I just feel like dog crap.
Yeah.
But
mine's McDonald's, and it's right across the street, and it's so hard to avoid.
McDonald's is decent.
Yeah. In comparison to your Hardee's.
Yeah. Well, like when I was 8 years old, I loved me some McDonald's. And that's like one of those things. It's like, it's decent. It's over there. It's like, at 12 a.m., I've had McDonald's once in the past 10 years too, and I was in Colorado. It was 12 o'clock. The only thing was open was was that McDonald's, and we haven't ate.
And how did you feel the next day?
Well, I didn't eat it because I got halfway through a chicken nugget and I realized this is cardboard, and this is not what I remember as a kid, and I'm not eating this.
Yeah.
And so hunger didn't feel that bad, Yeah. But back to the serious question, when it comes to self-development, like growing every single day is big. Like some people, for me, when I was sick and in the apartment, for me, it was battling my mind. Remember, all right, like I had to choose my life's not going to be this. The doctors told me it was going to be one way. No, I don't think so. They wanted me to take all these prescription meds, take all this stuff. And I took it, and I didn't like the way I felt. My face got all this. So it's like everybody's dealing with something at a different level.
Yeah.
And you just got to want better for yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's where it starts. You got to want improvement. And then wherever it comes, just go take it and then let it compound. And then it's a domino effect. And then for me, it started out losing weight just to get a girlfriend to now I'm talking about acquiring businesses in Charleston because I chose to go to a gym.
Right.
That's where it started for me. It starts different places for everybody.
Right. So
for success for me is how much can I grow? how fast can I grow, and can I reach what I think might be my potential?
Yeah.
That would be success for me. And then how many other people can I bring along the way? Because like there's a quote, they talk about, it's only at the top unless you help someone else get there. I think Tyree said that or something like that. But for me, when I see that route as 15, 16, 17, 18, that wasn't even like, it was like I was living with blinders.
Yeah.
I go to college and I'm like, oh, there's this whole world out here. I can do anything I want to do. Okay, well, now I have to be careful because what I choose, what I want, like, is going to be exactly what I have.
Right.
So I have everything right now that I have right now because I chose that.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately equivalent to everybody. There was a point in my life I realized everything I had wasn't what I wanted, but I was choosing it.
Right.
And I had to change. I had to do things differently. So success for me is how often and how fast can I grow, which comes with change. And change is hard. And the older I get, the less I want to change because the more I think works. And like we were talking about AI and ChatGPT, and that's a change that I'm resistant to, and I know I'm resistant to it because I have to change. I got to go learn something else that I learned back in 2016. That was the state of the art marketing. Now I got to do something different. Now I got to add more stuff to my plate. There's more boxes to check.
Right.
Do I want to do this? Well, that's success. Like overcoming that and continuing for 80 years.
We talked about real estate earlier too. Are you, well, let's start with the company first. This is your first acquisition.
Yep.
There's probably a plan to continue growing.
Yes.
Which is awesome. On the real estate side of things, how are you growing your real estate portfolio? Are you thinking, okay, as I grow the billiards company, I'll have more cash flow that I can then put into real estate for tax purposes and for general equity and cash flow, whatever. What's kind of your real estate thought too? And I think there's a lot of people that are in their early stages of figuring out how to build out and buy real estate too, and they're like, oh well, maybe I should buy a rental property. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people get ahead of themselves and like, I'm gonna buy a rental property, but cash flow is king to a certain degree. Right. So 100%. What is your strategy in regards to buying more real estate? And
so for me, I mean, you really have to do the math on every deal. It doesn't really matter what you buy. I think the math matters. Mm-hmm. And as long as the maths,
as long as the math is mathing,
then it's a good deal, right? But for starting out, I mean, for me, I had to beg, borrow, and steal 10 grand to buy a house that I lived in for 2 months, and then I planned on living in it, and I kind of always knew real estate was where I wanted to go, but I thought I had to have so much money to get into it, and then a friend of mine on Facebook's house burned down, and he had a $2,000 a month insurance check, and I said, I can go rent an apartment and rent this place out, and I'll make $1,000 a month. This is great. Oh my God, this is why everybody makes money in real estate. And then they hit me with the taxes, and then I realized I was actually losing money because they tax you differently from a unit you're living in versus a unit that you're renting.
6%, right?
Yep. And then there's other expenses that come along with that. When the water heater goes out, you're on the hook. You've got to replace it. So I like to rent where I live so I don't have to maintain anything. I don't have to worry about like the toilet not working, the water filter needs to be changed. Like I don't want to do I want to work and I want to generate money, and anything that takes time away from that, I don't want to do that. I want to take that earned income and I want to buy investments. Right now, it used to be single family homes for me. I'm selling the single family homes I have in Malden and Simpsonville to buy what could be 2 or 4 units. I might take that and I might hold it for a little bit to see what's going to happen with the market. Are we kind of like stalling out because it's kind of starting to come back down a little bit? Am I waiting for a crash? I'm just kind of in that point where I'm trying to figure out what's next and really defining that. Getting started though is you just got to get started. Like you're not going to make money on your first deal, but you got to do it to figure out what the different variables are so that you can do the math. Right. And in doing so, you want to be successful at it, so you're going to figure it out. I'm a very fuck it mentality.
Yeah.
Like if I don't know how to do something, all right, let's go do it, and then we'll
Figure it out.
We'll figure it out. You know, and for me, that's how the real estate went. And now growing it, I mean, Greenville's growing so fast. So is Charleston. So is the coast. Like Myrtle Beach is like one of the top 3 cities now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to position myself, because if I don't position myself in the right way, and I would tell all the viewers this too, study the market. Look at where everybody's moving to, and you can either buy the biggest, nicest unit on the street, and then you're going to be at the top of the market, or you can buy the least nicest unit.
Yep.
And let the big unit carry you. So there's a lot of different ways. There's 100 million different ways to do real estate. Getting into it is just about getting into it.
Would you suggest, though, building out better cash flow first? So not just buying a business, whatever that is, right? If it's your job, if it's whatever, to produce more cash flow versus like...
How much stress do you want?
It's like, really, like, what kind of lifestyle do you really want to live?
Yeah. How much stress do you want?
Yeah.
Because like right now, I mean, you could throw money into a market account or a savings account and earn 5-6%, and honestly, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Throw $100 grand in there, and you're earning $6 grand a year. That's not terrible. You can throw it in the market, right? You can invest it in the stock market. I'm more of a, you know, you got people who buy like funds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I like individual stocks. Do I like the guy that I'm buying into? Do I see a future with it? Like, I like Tesla, I like NVIDIA. I think with AI, you can even think GE, right? What's going to power AI? Well, it needs a ton of electricity. Well, who's the main electricity producer in America? Like, just it's like simple when you think of, when you can backtrack things, right? If everybody could have bought NVIDIA in 2017, if they knew what they knew now, it would have been great, because like they just blew up, and that would beat any real estate investment you could make. Real estate is a long-term play. So if you're in a career, I think buying a rental unit is not a bad idea. I'm no financial advisor. Disclaimer.
This is not financial advice.
Do your own research. Make the math. But that's what I'm doing. You know, so I just sold my 2 rentals. My residential rentals are listed. They're not sold. If you're interested in a 3-bedroom.
In Greenville?
In Greenville.
Simpsonville,
Malden.
Simpsonville.
Simpsonville, Malden.
Okay.
I got a 4-4 and I got a 3-2. Very beautiful units. Currently leased though, so.
We might push this live a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we time-stamped this a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We
But
can make that a short real quick on YouTube and focus on certain geographic locations.
for sure. Yeah. So come to South Carolina. Don't wait.
But if you're from Ohio, you can stay there.
Yeah. We're very selective. Okay.
Yeah, jokes.
Only if you want to change.
Yeah, only if you want to change. When we first linked up, we were actually, interestingly, at a location in Greenville.
Yep.
We were downtown, and we kind of ran into each other. And I don't know if I said hey to you or you said hey to me.
I had an
first.
Andy Elliott shirt on.
You had an Andy Elliott shirt on. Yes, you did. And I was like, you're an Andy Elliott guy. And I immediately knew that you were a sales guy first and foremost, but obviously a driven individual. And that conversation has now led to a friendship, and obviously having you on the podcast. What's super cool about that though too is, you know, when you wear things in public and you make yourself known and you present yourself in a certain way, the right people will connect with you.
For sure.
And not that you have to be an Andy Elliott fan, right? But it at least sparks a conversation to then get things to move in the direction you want them to move in, so you can start surrounding yourself with the right people. And from everything I've seen and we've discussed, it seems like you are not just currently, but continuing to surround yourself with the right people and good people that are helping to, you know, push you forward and help you progress. What would you kind of say on that front too, as it relates to like surrounding yourself? Because people always say, "Oh, surround yourself with the 5 people you want to be like." That sort of thing.
For sure.
But what would you say to that front as it relates to surrounding yourself with and getting around the right people to continue moving yourself in the right direction for, you know, your own personal development?
It's not always easy. I'll tell you that. I think being around the wrong people kind of led me to the right people.
Yeah.
Because like you grew up in a small town, like Slater, Marietta is where I grew up. There's 2,500 people there.
Slater,
Slater, Marietta.
Marietta,
Yeah.
Georgia.
See, that's what everybody says.
Where is that?
It's in South Carolina.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's north of Travelers Rest.
God.
It's a small.
I thought you're from Greenville.
Yep, exactly. Right.
Slater,
Exactly. That's what everybody says.
That's terrible. I thought I knew every single location in South Carolina.
Well, even kids in my high school, I went to Greenville High School.
Yep.
They're like, "You drive all the way from Georgia?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I want it."
I love South Carolina.
Yeah, man.
Greenville's great.
Like 2-hour drive to school.
It's like New York, baby.
Yeah. So, but like growing up in that town, I thought my friends were the people who were around me, and because it's not like you have a ton of people to pick from, right? And so as you get older, you realize, oh, this is actually a choice, and getting out of that small town mentality, kind of helped me see that. Now for me, I do this thing called, it's my life account. It's every quarter, I basically have this book that the founder or owner of Pivotal Fitness showed me in those 2 weeks.
Cool.
Probably the most valuable thing that I got from that, and it's probably been the most valuable thing from any business owner I ever worked for. But I do this every 4 weeks, or every 4 months, or 3 months, whatever the quarter is, every 4 quarters. And it keeps track of those people in your life. So you track them, how much money do they make? What's their physical appearance? What's their spiritual life like? What's their daily activities? And you add all that up in a mathematical formula. You can see I like math. And that average is like spot on to exactly who you are. So like I see the boat, and there's like 5 people in your boat. And I'm looking at who's in my boat that's rowing, who's in my boat that's not rowing, who's helping me get to the next dock. And I think growing, you understand, like, if you're in somebody's life for a year, 5 years, like, that's crazy good. Like, right now, I feel like every 6 months, my friend group is like, we're slowly growing. And because everybody's growing, we're growing in different directions.
Yep.
And then you just outgrow one another, and then you grow into another group, and it's like a constant growth, and then you connect and say, oh yeah, how's life? Da, da, da. And it's just like you never missed a beat, but it's been a year and a half. So I think it's important that you have to be willing to not cut off, for the lack of a better word, but you have to be willing to change your surroundings. And I think the easiest thing to do is go do what you want to do, and the people that are most like you are going to be doing it too.
Right.
And everybody you're looking for, if you're looking for a friend group, they're around what you want to do. So just go do what you want to do. Right. So that's what I would say to that.
Love it. It's difficult because for those of us that are people pleasers to a certain degree, right? And I've always been a people pleaser, and I've tried my best to get away from being a people pleaser. But for the longest time, I cared a lot about what people thought.
Yep.
And I was like, I want to be a certain kind of person to everybody, and I want to be a friend to everybody.
Yep.
And you quickly realize as you get older, it takes time. It just takes time.
Yep.
It truly does. Some of us just figure it out earlier, and some of us figure it out later. But you realize quickly that there are certain people around you that genuinely want you to succeed. You can see them once every 5 years, and they genuinely want you to do the best you can possibly do, but you only talk to them once every 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Yeah. That's totally fine. And there are other people that for some reason they're around you, they want to be around you, they like your energy, but they don't really want you to grow past that point.
Yep.
So this is another one too. It's like, how do you figure out how to surround yourself with people that genuinely want you to succeed, and genuinely want you to continue growing, when they're stuck, and they don't really care to grow because they enjoy the comfortability of life. But you also don't want to destroy relationships, because life is all about relationships.
It is.
And building this relationship.
100%.
So you're like, I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, I'm too ambitious for you. Yeah. It's not that at all. It's just for me to enjoy and be fulfilled. You mentioned fulfillment earlier. Yeah. For me to enjoy my life and be fulfilled and have success and happiness and the things that I want, I got to keep going. Yeah. And I want you to be there with me, and I need you to be there with me. Yeah. Well, I don't need you, but I would like for you to be there with me.
Right.
I think that's been one of my biggest struggles with individuals. But once again, back to my point, there are people that, regardless of where they are, they'll still want to see you succeed.
For sure.
And it's so interesting seeing people that you thought were on your side, and later on you're like, you never actually cared about my success, did you?
Nope. They didn't. So I have experiences like that, and probably everybody can relate to that. I like that direction that you're going with that, because that's very relatable to anyone who's watching. Everybody's got somebody who, I call it wasted potential, right? Is really what it is. But
It's the name of our softball team, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
How you doing?
For those of you who want to come out and check out the Mount Pleasant Wasted Potential softball team, I hit a double last night. Not that that's a big deal, but I've never hit a ball out of the really out of the infield. I've always been like a single.
Okay.
I was like, I hit it. I dribble and I get to first.
Yeah.
Double last night. So.
Nice.
Sorry,
Well done.
cut you off.
It cost you a hamstring.
A potential second torn hamstring. Limp to second.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think when that is a hard thing to do, but I think you can want better for some people than some people want for themselves, and I think that's a hard thing to understand too, especially for me. Like, the wasted potential I'm talking about is there were kids that I grew up with that were way better than me at sports, that had way more potential, and they should have went pro. I'm talking they're throwing 70 at like 13 years old, 12 years old. Like, that's equivalent to a 90-something mile an hour fastball in the majors. Never played middle school baseball, never played high school baseball, because for whatever reason. And I see that and I'm like, yeah, when I wanted to go throw, you didn't want to do it. You want to go to the trampoline. Right. You want to go hang out with this. You want to go see if you could get dip from the gas station. Right? Like, you're 15, dude. We were so mature and so ignorant at the same time.
Yeah. Like, trying to grow up way too quick.
Facts.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be 21. So, but with that being said, there was a period in my life where I had to realize, like, they talk about like that isolation phase. I feel like I want to go through another one of those, because it's like, it was so impactful and so powerful and changed the major trajectory. Yeah. Because for me, it's the boat, but Tyrese came out with these series of videos. He was doing Facebook Lives, and he was talking about like his agents were like telling him to stop. It was crazy. Like, he was like going through like a moment in his life or whatever, but he was doing it publicly. Yeah. And at the same time, I'm a kid. I'm watching these Facebook Lives every day. I called it my beauty hour, but I would go into my mom's bathroom, lock the door, and watch his lives, and I would just kind of like get my privacy and work on my mental, right? Like, changing that mentality. And he's the one who talked about the boat and the 5 people. And not everybody can go to the next season of your life. People in your life for a reason. People are in your life for a season. Yeah. And sometimes when you get to the next season of your life, like, the people have to change. And as much as you want to carry them to the next season, like, they're not meant to be there. Right. And it's actually detrimental to both of you, because both of you could be holding on, trying to make something work, when in reality, you're both supposed to be in different seasons of your life. And because you're hanging on and fighting so hard for something, yeah, then somebody does something that thinks, oh, well, you did this to me and all that, whatever. And now it becomes this drama issue, right, when really y'all felt it months ago and you ignored it. And you knew there was a conversation to be had, and there's an elephant in the room every time you're around, but you let it carry on and carry on. And I think that creates that icky situation, right, and that's kind of what you're talking about, where it's like, I love these people. I want them to continue to grow with me. But it's not a bad thing if you just go different directions. Right. Like, it's your life. You can live it however you want to live it, and you choose who's in your life. Yeah. And so,
I just wish the best for other people.
For sure.
So I think, frankly, this conversation could probably go on for another 3 hours. I'm not going to cut us super short, but I am going to start to wrap things up. Okay. And I want to kind of ask, just in general, with everything we've discussed today, is there anything else you want to add? Is there any other topics you wanted to discuss that maybe are like top of mind for you? Yeah. I know we kind of briefly mentioned the debate tonight in a previous text. I don't really want to go down the political rabbit hole at all.
It sounds like you do, though.
Yeah, but I do. You're right, I kind of do. But I'm going to try to avoid it. I do, but I'm going to try to avoid it. But that'll be really interesting.
How about we talk about, instead of the debate specifically, why don't we just talk about our country?
That's a great topic. Do you have a question in particular?
Well, I do.
What's a thought?
I'm curious on what you think the potential for our generation is?
So,
Because we're next up.
yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there and a lot to unravel. I as of late have started to try to change my thinking from doom and gloom to being more positive about the outlook of our country and the future of our country. What we have experienced in our lives up to this point is arguably the most freedom that any human beings have ever experienced in the timeline of humanity.
For sure.
That is maybe hard for us to wrap our minds around, but the more you think about it, the more I watch Peaky Blinders, the more I think about history and the historical context as far back as the Bible, if not further. Right? Humanity has been struggling to get a grip and to really progress as a whole for a very long time. We've had a lot of issues, lots of war, lots of battle, lots of constant shifts and changes in political the geography and international conflicts. And ownership of property and ownership of human beings from the slave period to the now. I mean, once again, that was a little bit jumbled and not maybe the best way of describing it, but history has been truly tumultuous.
Yeah.
Basically. And for us to sit here and to think, oh, the outlook is bleak, in my opinion, is not at all where we should be at. We should start to realize how blessed we are to be at this point.
Yeah. Personally,
and then realize that, hey, it's kind of cool that we get to have these debates and conversations openly.
Yeah.
And we get to sit here and have this chat about the future of humanity. Whereas 100 years ago, even now in certain countries, you can't have this conversation in North Korea.
And even if you did, you couldn't see it.
Correct.
You didn't have the technology.
Correct. And for us to recognize that where we are at as a country, we once again we are super blessed. We really are super blessed. There's too much clickbait online nowadays that makes you worry, and it's fear mongering. It makes you feel like everything's doom and gloom. And I think we really got to get away from that. I think we need to recognize that there are issues and that we are constantly growing and constantly learning and constantly progressing. But I also just think we need to first take a step back and realize how blessed we are. That being said, I think there are a number of things that we need to address as a country. I think we need to stop allowing the division of the political parties to get in the middle of our family and our personal relationships. Yeah. I think we have a long way to go as it relates to really being able to have conversations about certain topics without arguing and yelling and screaming and getting heated. But ultimately, we all feel it in ourselves. Whenever something's brought up, we're like, oh, I support that. Oh, I hate that. You immediately gravitate towards something because of your personality.
You have an emotional response.
You have an emotional response to it, right? And that's why people always talk about selling off of emotion, right? Which is kind of sad, but it is what it is, right? We sell off of emotion. We sell off of fear. And so to take that at a very small local level and think about it at the highest of levels, all they're doing is selling us off of fear and emotion. Yeah. That's all they're doing.
For sure.
So I would say the current state of the country, and I think that was kind of your question, but the future of the country and maybe what the outlook looks like. Is that your question? What exactly?
Yeah. What do you feel like is the potential for our
generation? I think the potential is bigger than it ever has been.
I agree.
And with the tools we have at our disposal, if we all just work a little bit harder to get to where we know we can be, we'll be better off for it. Stop sending your friends negative BS online.
Yeah,
Stop sharing things that promote fear-mongering in a less than optimal life. Yeah. Stop that shit. Because as soon as we stop doing that, and we stop sharing with our Democrat friends things that are pro-Republican, or we stop sharing with our Republicans things that are anti or pro-Democrat, as soon as we start actually sharing things that are pro-humanity and pro-progression and pro moving forward in the right direction. And once again, the whole progressive word has obviously been kind of taken over to a certain degree. But as soon as we start,
It has been branded.
It's been branded, right? As a marketer, you know that.
Yeah.
It has been branded. So as soon as we all start to progress together, it doesn't mean everything has to be happy all the time, because frankly, it's just not. And the human experience is not happy all the time.
Nope.
But as soon as we can start getting back to what it means to be human and connecting on that level, I think that the potential is bigger than it ever has been with the tools we have at our disposal.
Yeah. So to follow up with that, so you've heard the quote, hard times make great men make easy times make soft men make hard times, whatever the quote is, right? Where do you think we are right now? Are we in the good times creating soft men? Do you think we're in the hard times creating strong men? Where are we?
So if I were trying to get people to click on this, I would say, oh, we're weak. We're so weak, right? I would argue that, though. And I'd say there are certain people that are weak. There are certain people that are strong. Subjective, right?
Right.
But I would argue and say that some of us are stronger than ever before spiritually, and are starting to understand what it means to be strong spiritually and mentally. We've learned so much from the past 100 years, from our grandparents, from our parents, and now that information is being passed down to us. There's a lot that's been learned, but are we weak in comparison to like the height of the Roman Empire?
Right.
Probably, but we're at a different stage of humanity.
Yeah.
Right, so it's hard. It's a hard conversation to have. But if you want to look at it at a very basic level, then yes, like society in general is weakened right now. We expect everything to be handed to us. Some of us do, others don't, and others are working to try to outpace that specifically.
For sure.
But I don't know. I think it's a great question. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. But I've heard that so many times that I've almost gotten to this point where it's like, but I don't think I'm personally weak. Now, I might not be like the best boxer or fighter or like jiu-jitsu guy. Like I might not be a total badass in that regard, but I don't think I'm super weak necessarily. I think I've still grinded to get where I'm at and worked my ass off. Yeah. So it's a great question. What do you think?
I think we're in a transitional period. I think we're going from easy times that made weak men to a harder time that's making strong men.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's hard to tell exactly where we are in the timeline of that, right? So we can only assume. But I think we're in a transitional period where the moment our generation, because I think the future looks bright, I have to believe that I am a be twice as positive as they are negative kind of guy.
Right.
If I ever got a tattoo, that's what it would say.
So no tattoos yet?
No tattoos.
Same.
Yeah.
I
made it this long. Like I think it's more unique not to have a tattoo.
Right there with you.
But that's what I think is we have to be twice as positive as they, meaning anyone who's a negative situation that you encompass.
Yeah.
So a guy who's having road rage, twice as positive as they are negative. Like that's like a staple for me. No negativity, and negativity gets the best of me. I'm not like perfect by any means. But the future of the country, I think, I'm actually kind of excited. I think there is a nervousness factor because you don't know which way it's going to go. But I do believe in this country, and I love this country, and I think this country has a way of figuring it out over time, over history, right? Like we'll celebrate, 250 years in the next so many years or whatever. We're young when it comes in the grand scheme of countries. We're super young, but because we're young, I think that gives us an element that we get to choose.
Yeah.
And our generation is becoming of age to where now we're taking leadership positions, now we're taking responsibility, and I think as soon as our generation kind of understands the responsibility that our parents and grandparents have, to be honest with you, have really protected us from.
Right.
Like, my grandpa served in World War II. Like, there's no telling how many friends he went over there with and never came back with. Imagine us going to war and one of us are coming back.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have to stand in a room where it's like, look to the guy next to you. One of you two are not coming home, and we appreciate your service.
Yeah.
Like, so I have so much respect for that aspect, for what they gave us. Now it's our responsibility to understand that right was given to us. And that's for everyone. Think about that. All the sacrifices that have made across the board to get us to this point. We can't overlook that. We have to take advantage of that and make something of this. And that's where the future and the potential, I think, in this country lies for me. We're in a transitional period. I think we're going to come out on the right side of history.
I'd like to think so. But I think a lot of that has to do with us being, so it sounds like both of us are pretty pro-America, which is great. We love our country.
Yeah.
But I think we also both recognize that our country's not perfect.
No.
And I think there are a lot of people that'll sit here and be like, they're like, I am 100% pro-America. Everything America does is perfect, and America's never wrong. And what has been probably the best part of this experiment of America is that we get to recognize our pitfalls and quickly make micro adjustments to make ourselves better as time goes on, right? We started off with slavery. We made that adjustment, and we got rid of slavery. We started off with women not being able to vote. We made that adjustment. Women are now able to vote.
Yep.
The list goes on, right? Yep. And we might make a decision and go backwards to some people and forward to others, but we still get to make that decision, and we get to continue to adjust as time goes on to get to kind of where we are nowadays, where we get to sit in an air-conditioned room and have this conversation freely and openly.
Right.
Once again, there are still countries in this world where they don't get to have this, not even close to this. Yeah. And I think you're a bit of a traveler as well. It's difficult when some people you talk to just like have not really stepped outside of the country to appreciate what we have.
For sure. That comes to that maturity aspect.
Yeah.
Where as the older our generation gets, because eventually we will become the largest generation in the country. Right now it's still like the baby boomers, and they're starting to get into the afterlife, to say it in a good way. My father's one of them. But at the same time, as we mature and the older we get, the more we realize how much of an impact we actually have on our country.
Yep.
I think as we were younger, in our 20s, for me specifically, I never thought about me assisting my country at all. I'm just a citizen. I'm just trying to eat. My car don't have AC. I got to put gas in it, and I got to put a quart of oil because it's leaking.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to survive. And I think as we mature and the older we get, now we're kind of blessed, but for everybody, if they could just take the aspect of you are a member of our team. Every single person in this country is a member of our team, and we're growing, and everybody's a part of it. The outcome is what all of us want, and it's going to be determined by the majority's efforts.
Right.
And we have to put in everything that we can. And I think if people viewed that as like, all right, we are on the same team. Like, just I relayed this to one of my competitors in my local market. I told him he was undercutting me by like 50%. And I called this guy because they called me and they wanted to know if I could match his price. And I called him. I said, hey, man, dude, you can undercut me. I'll tell you what my prices are all day long. But the price of your service that you are offering is worth twice as much as you're charging, whether you have the overhead I have or not, because that was his statement.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I was like, undercut me by $100. I said, but you could be the Patriots and I could be the Buccaneers, but we're both part of the NFL. And for us to succeed, the NFL has to succeed. And I was like, a rising tide raises all ships. Raise your prices, bro. Still undercut me. And that's kind of how I view the country. It's like, depending on what side of the fence you're on, it doesn't really matter. The point is the country has to win. Yeah. And we are competing against other countries. Yeah. And you are competing against another citizen of another country. Whether you think you are or not, you are. It is our 365 million versus everybody else's population. And who wins is going to be based off of how hard we work, and that's determined by how hard I work every single day, and how you work, and how the next person works. And taking ownership to that, I think would help our country a ton, because we all contribute.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, once again, I really appreciate you taking the time to, well, I'd say drive down here, but you drove down here for other reasons.
Yeah.
But to be here while you were here, in Charleston, and to have all these discussions, open up a little bit, be a little, a bit more human, and share that aspect of things, right? I think it's pretty difficult for people to share certain aspects of what goes on behind the scenes.
For sure.
Because we all try to put, make face.
The best foot forward.
Put best foot forward.
Yeah.
And I just really appreciate you being real and genuine and providing your perspective. And that is, once again, kind of the goal of this, is to be as real as possible and provide that perspective that somebody might not have considered before as they were getting into it. But for those that are listening, and for those that may want to get connected with you,
Yep.
and for those that want to potentially purchase a pool table or a piece of furniture, can you just share a little bit of that information as we conclude so that people can get in touch with you?
For sure. Yeah. So for me personally, at Cameron Ledford on all platforms, Facebook and Instagram are the main two that I'm on. For my company, at Ledford Billiard Supply on Instagram, our website's ledfordbilliardsupply.com. We offer the finest furniture, and we try to uphold the best customer service in the industry for that specific product. So if it's pool tables, shuffleboards, racing simulators are a new ticket. I'm kind of excited about that one. Golf simulators, anything to do with the game room and trying to make your home fun again. Hit me up.
Love it. Well, that's going to be the first clip on social media. So I was trying not to say anything while you were going through it. That's going to be a good one. Well, perfect. Well, once again, I appreciate your time, man, and thanks for coming to Low Country.
Sweet.
And look forward to having the next podcast. Hopefully, in the next 10 or so, 15 episodes. Do it again. I'll come to the upstate.
Yeah, the
Awesome.
Cam and Cam show.
Looking forward to it, man. Appreciate it.